Greetings, my peeps, and welcome to the All Things Basketball Podcast with your boy GD. In this episode, I'll be doing my Week 7 recap. I'll be going from Monday through Friday for this episode, so just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. In the NBA, shall we? So let us go through it. We'll go through each day and all a bit of news and few game highlights and so forth. So let's get into it, guys. We're starting with Monday, which will be November the 28th. So on that day, of course, it's Monday, which means players of the week in each conference. So, and this go around, you got two big men for your players of the week. So, starting in the West, you have DeAndre Ayton of the Phoenix Suns. He had a pretty good week. His team as a whole went 3-0. They beat the likes of the Lakers, the Detroit Pistons. Seemed like everybody beats the Pistons, and the Utah Jazz. So in that week, DeAndre Ayton goes for 23.7 points per game, 16 rebounds, and he shot from the field a whopping 67.4% from the field. Pretty good numbers there. And hey, they need him because you still have no CP3. So Devin Booker, he needs some help in there. So DeAndre Ayton getting it done. And then in the East, I thought for a moment about Shake Middleton, but then again, when you have a Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's a tough act to take down. So his team went 3-1. They beat the likes of Miami, Cleveland, and Dallas. So three pretty good teams they beat, and they lost actually to Chicago. So 3-1 for the week. Giannis goes for 35.3 points per game, 9.5 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and he shot at 68.7% from the field. So few percentages better than Ayton on his side. So Giannis doing Giannis things. So sure it's of no surprise him getting player of the week. So that's how it goes there. So let's talk some game action. So Joel Embiid, he returns after a 4-game absence. He had the foot that was bothering him. So sat 4 games. He came back to help Philly get a win over Atlanta, 104-101. And in his return, 30 points for him, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals. So Joel Embiid coming into the door, elevating his team to the victory there. So, and remember, you still have no James Harden, no Tyrese Maxey. Although word I got is that they will be back this week. Well, at least James Harden will. With still some time for Maxey to get back, but getting James Harden back will be big time. And for those in fantasy, if you had Shake Middleton, you may want to hold him still because I think he'll have some use until Maxey gets back. So don't drop him just yet. I understand he was getting pretty big numbers as far as scoring, assists, and those things, but hold on to him still because someone has to take the place of Maxey. So I think Middleton, actually you can kind of use Middleton as a second ball handler to Harden and let Harden go get his offense. So I think Middleton's numbers will slip in terms of the scoring, but I think he can be a help and assists in all those sort of categories there. So he's a hold for now in fantasy. So that's the news for Philly. Bad news for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They lose Karl Anthony Towns to a calf injury, a calf strain rather, in a loss to Washington, 142 to 127. So Karl Anthony Towns, the diagnosis is he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks. Pretty big blow for that team already. They were still trying to find themselves as far as, getting Towns and Rudy Gobert working together as that twin tower. So this puts a dent in that program. So Chris Finch is going to have to figure some things out there in that regard. But in that game, actually, for Washington, Kristaps Porzingis, 41 points. He dropped 6 3-pointers in this game. 4 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Kristaps Porzingis, man, it was always a case with health for him. But he has been the healthiest I've seen him in quite a while. Maybe since his Knicks days. This is the healthiest I've seen Kristaps Porzingis. And I tell you what, man, the guy is playing well, putting up all-star numbers, even to venture that thought. But he's playing well. The team, it's has its moments, but Kristaps Porzingis has played well this year. I gotta give it to him. And funny thing in fantasy, he's one of those guys where you take him and you kind of hold your nose because you know you're going to get the good performances, but he's going to sit a lot. But so far, he hasn't really been pulled. He's even been playing back-to-backs. So we're seeing Porzingis do the things that a lot of us dreamed he would do. So Kristaps Porzingis getting it done for the Wizards. So they get the win. Kevin Durant drops 45 points, along with 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks, 2 steals, as the Brooklyn Nets defeat Orlando 109 to 102. So KD doing KD type things. But bad news in that game. Ben Simmons, he leaves the game early because of a sore knee, and I'll get back to the diagnosis of that as we go on here. So bit of bad news there for the Nets. Nets still, at the bottom looking up. So trying to get it together over there in Barclays Center. Devin Booker, he explodes for 44 points. He also has 8 rebounds, 6 steals, and 4 assists, as Phoenix on the road beats Sacramento 122 to 117. So Book is keeping this thing afloat, man. He's putting in the work. And then also in that game for Sacramento, Domantas Sabonis, he has a near triple-double with 17 points, 10 assists, just 9 rebounds. So he's 1 rebound shy of that triple-double. So that's your Monday news there. Let us move on to Tuesday. Tuesday, the NBA Foundation was given $1 million contribution, which is one of the largest ever given to the foundation. And it was given by Google Pixel. And this money is to be used towards its HBCU initiative. Remember last year they were going heavy in that regard. In fact, they had the inaugural HBCU Classic that was during the weekend of the All-Star game. Actually, it was that early that Saturday, just before the Saturday night events there. And in that game, you had players from the Howard University and from Morgan State. They were seen in photos with the Google Pixel phones in their hands. So Google Pixel says, you know what? Let's float this money over here. And then that Tuesday, because it usually come after a Cyber Monday, it's usually Giving Tuesday. So you usually give to a non-profit, what have you. So, and that's what happened there. They gave to the NBA Foundation. So kudos to Google Pixel for that. So let's move on to game action. It was a light schedule for that Tuesday. So Julius Randle, whose birthday actually was that day, he scores 36 points, dropping 6 3-pointers in that game, along with 7 rebounds, 5 assists, as the Knicks on the road trounces Detroit. I told you, everybody's beating Detroit, even the Knicks, for crying out loud. They beat Detroit 140 to 110, which is the Knicks' highest point total of the season. So kudos there. The Knicks still, around that 500 area, teetering around there. So still trying to get some traction here. Luka Doncic, he racks up a triple-double with 41 points, 12 assists, and 12 rebounds as Dallas squeaks by Golden State 116 to 113. And also, in that game as well, for Dallas, Christian Wood, I've been talking about this guy for a minute, but only 4 points, 8 rebounds, and he played 25 minutes. For the life of me, I still don't get why Dallas doesn't start this guy. I mean, and I said it before, I think him and Luka should kind of get a rapport going, especially if they're going to be on the floor together late in games. So I just, kid probably forgets more basketball than I would ever know, but he seemed insistent on bringing Christian Wood off the bench. If there was a viable big man in front of him, then I would understand, but I really don't understand. I really don't. I mean, I know you want to treat Wood with kid gloves, he has the injury history and so forth, but I think you got to start the guy. I'll still beat that drum till the cows come home. So that's just my thoughts there. Anyhow, that's the Tuesday schedule. So let's talk about Wednesday. Remember on Monday in the Brooklyn Nets game, Ben Simmons goes down. So Ben Simmons will now sit for the next 3 games because of the sore knee, the calf rather. So it's basically calf maintenance. So he's going to sit for the next 3 games. Next available game, I believe, is December 7th. So we'll see if he suits up for that one. So they're reevaluating him this week. So the tentative date is December 7th. We'll see what happens there. Also in Wednesday's news, the NBA Foundation, they're back in the news again. They named grant recipients for their 7th round of grant giving. So the following organizations receive grant money. Avenues for Justice, they're based out of New York. STEM NOLA, and that's for New Orleans, obviously, in Louisiana. Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit, obviously from Michigan. 1,000 Degrees, that's a nonprofit in California. Action for Boston Community Development, Inc., and obviously that's in Massachusetts. Baton Rouge Youth Coalition, Baton Rouge Youth Coalition, and that's in Louisiana. Bottom Line is in New York. That's another nonprofit. Center for Black educator development. That's more of a national platform there. Drive Change Inc. is based out of New York, Brooklyn, New York to be exact, as well as also Bottom Line is based out of Brooklyn too. Elso Inc. They're operating out of Portland, Oregon. Kenwood Oakland Community Organization, that's in California. And then the last one, Peer Forward, which is in Washington, D.C. So all these organizations received grant money from the NBA Foundation. So kudos to the NBA Foundation there. So let's talk about game action now. Jayson Tatum goes nuclear with 49 points. He drops 8 3-pointers in this game. Wow. With 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals as Boston beats Miami, and one of those hotly contested games there. But Boston gets the win over Miami, 134 to 121. So Jayson Tatum continuing his MVP type run. Right now he's at 30.7 points per game, just over 8 rebounds and 4.3 assists. Jayson Tatum's been balling. He's been balling. He's the best player on the best team in the NBA right now. So definitely there's eyes on him as far as MVP goes. So we'll see what happens there. Only thing I think can maybe hurt him is when the times he sits and you see Jaylen Brown goes, he carries the team. So do I think Jaylen Brown can steal votes from him? Maybe, who knows? But yeah, but right now Tatum is on a tear right now. So but he's looking good. He's definitely amongst the top 5 MVP candidates right now. So let's continue. Kevin Durant again. That man again. This time he hits up Washington for 39 points with 5 rebounds, 5 assists as Brooklyn wins and beats Washington 113 to 107. And in that game, Kristaps Porzingis, that man again, 27 points with 19 rebounds. So Porzingis, you heard me talk about him before, how well he's playing and so forth. So Wednesday, as we continue on, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he drops 37 points with 13 rebounds, 7 assists, but he fouls out of this game against the Knicks. But the Bucks able to prevail at Madison Square Garden. They get the win, 109 to 103. And in that game, Mitchell Robinson, he's a presence inside, 15 points, 20 rebounds. So fine game for him. I know down the stretch it was close. Then you have Grayson Allen hit the dagger 3 to put them up by 3. And then back at the other end, R.J. Barrett, he shoots a wild 3, misses. And then that pretty much, Milwaukee gets the rebound, gets fouled, go to the line, so forth. And they pull out the win. So tough pill to swallow for the Knicks. Another close game. They lose at the Garden. Not a good look at all. Tibbs watch is still seems like it's still underway for the moment. So let's continue on. Devin Booker, he wreaks havoc on the Chicago Bulls with, get this, 51 points, and of that 6 threes, along with 6 assists and 4 rebounds. And by the way, he does this in 3 quarters. So Monty Williams smartly sitting down Booker, being that this game is pretty much in hand. So he sits Booker for a quarter, and the Suns get the blowout win, 132-113. To me, that's the smart thing to do. I know a lot of people wouldn't agree with it. They'll be like, "Oh, why didn't you let him get 70?" and so forth. It's all about the long term. You want to go deep into the playoffs and so forth, and why expend energy with your best player going out there going for 70 in a game that they pretty much had in hand? So I applaud Monty Williams for doing the prudent and wise thing. So, and also in that game, DeAndre Ayton, that man again, 30 points for him, 14 rebounds and 2 blocks to support Booker in this game. So definitely Phoenix Suns, the pride of the West right now. Let us move on to Thursday. Thursday, December 1st, which means Players of the Month, as well as Coach of the Month and Rookie of the Month. So let's talk about it. So Player of the Month in the West, was just talking about that man, Devin Booker for the Suns. He averaged for the month 29 points, 5.8 assists, 5.3 rebounds, and he shot at 37% from three-point range. So Devin Booker getting it done for those Phoenix Suns. And then in the East, man, I just talked about as well, Jayson Tatum for the Boston Celtics for the month of November, 31.6 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. So Jayson Tatum being the man for the Boston Celtics. And then you have your coaches of the month. And coaches of the month are, of no surprise, the two coaches who has their team on top of their conferences. In the West is Monty Williams for the Suns. The team went they went 10-4. Of those 10 wins, 6 of them were 10 points or more. So they, definitely beating up on the competition, it would seem. So Monty Williams doing a yeoman's job of keeping this team afloat with Chris Paul out as long as he's been out. So Monty Williams, it's funny, last year he got Coach of the Year. This year you can make a case for him repeating with what he's doing there. So, and then in the East you have Joe Mazzulla for the Boston Celtics. Of course, he's taking over for Ime Udoka, and he's doing a yeoman's job there for himself. The team had 16 games. They only lost 2. 14-2 for the month. And of those 14 wins, 7 of the games were 10 points or more. So Joe Mazzulla pretty much following the script that Ime Udoka left behind and getting the team to play. So things are moving along seamlessly over there in Boston. So, and then you have your rookies of the month for the West. It's a bit of a surprise here, but Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder, he averaged for the month 10.7 points per game, 3.2 rebounds, and he shot at 52.4% from the field. So, not gaudy numbers, but that just tells you the state of the rookie class in the West. So, not doing too much out there. And in the East, it's Benedict Mathurin for the Indiana Pacers. Still coming off the bench, he's scoring 19.2 points per game, 4 rebounds, and he's shooting 40.3% from 3-point range. So Mathurin getting kind of a jump on Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic, who had some injury issues for the month of November. But Mathurin, I tell you what, I think when the dust settles, when the trade deadline rolls away, and more likely than not, a Buddy Hield gets moved, I would say definitely load up on Benedict Mathurin, especially if you're in fantasy. Load up on that guy, because I think he's going to ball out the second half of the season once you deal Hield, which is pretty much the only person in the way. Chris Duarte is still hurt, so yeah, Mathurin getting it done for those Pacers. So, and Thursday also was a light day for the NBA. There was only one game on the schedule, so I'll talk about that in a minute. In other news, Al Horford signs a 2-year, $19.5 million contract extension with Boston. This will keep him in Boston till 2025. So, Al Horford, man, they have called upon him with the injury to Robert Williams III. So, Al Horford has been doing this thing, he's solid enough, averaging 10.2 points per game and getting about 2 3-pointers per game, 6.3 rebounds, and nearly 3 assists. So Al Horford, he going above and beyond with the Robert Williams III injury, so he's been having to play the pivot a lot. So, and pretty much getting it done in the interim until they get a Robert Williams back. So for that, the Celtics found to reward him, which they did, and rightfully so. So kudos to him. Then in Atlanta, a bit of bad news on two fronts. John Collins, he had an ankle sprain, so he's going to be out at least 2 weeks. And then your other forward in the starting lineup, DeAndre Hunter, he had a hip flexor, so he's going to be out at least a week for the Atlanta Hawks. So already you're dealing with a situation there where, well, you're going to get him back. Bogdanovich, so he hadn't made his debut. I believe he makes it soon enough. So so you have that going on, and then you still have situation with Clint Capella. He's been playing, but you've been kind of he hasn't been playing really in back-to-backs, so you've been kind of careful with him. So, but this is a big blow to them, that's for sure. So, losing 2 of your starting forwards. So, anyhow, so that's that news. About the only game on the schedule, Luka Doncic with 35 points along with 10 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. In an overtime loss, though, on the road to Detroit. Hey, Detroit beat somebody. 131 to 125 in that game. Bogdanovich, the other Bogdanovich, he had 30 points in this game with 5 3-pointers made, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals. So, leading the Detroit Pistons, who themselves got a lot of injury issues going on over there with Cade Cunningham, then with the rookie Jaden Ivey. So, but they get the win here over Dallas. So, moving on to Friday, let's talk injury news first. Nassir Little for the Portland Trailblazers, he's going to be out 6 weeks with a hip fracture. So, Nassir Little coming off their bench, one of their bench players they rely on. So, he's going to be out 6 weeks. So, that opens up the opportunity for, I believe, Shaedon Sharpe. I would look for him to probably get some of those minutes there. So, still waiting for Dame Lillard to get Dame Lillard back. So, hopefully he's on the way. So let us continue with Friday news. LeBron James passes Magic Johnson for 6th on the all-time assists list. So, LeBron James, the only forward in the top 10 on that list. And the 5 names ahead of LeBron right now: John Stockton, of course, Jason Kidd, Chris Paul, Steve Nash, and Mark Action Jackson. So he passes Magic in a game where they take down the Lakers. That is, takes down Milwaukee on a nationally televised game, by the way, on ESPN. On the road too, 133-129. So LeBron passes him on the list, but the real story in that game was Anthony Davis. He has been on a absolute tear. 44 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. So Anthony Davis really playing like a true big right now. And he's been healthy. Guys, he's been healthy. So that's gone a long way. He hasn't really missed a great chunk of time so far. So he's looking good. I got to give him his credit. And on the losing side, Giannis Antetokounmpo, he has 40 himself with 7 rebounds and 5 assists. So, and also in this game, Khris Middleton, he makes his season debut. Remember, he's hadn't played all season long with his injury. He starts, he plays, and he gets 17 points, 7 assists, and 2 rebounds. So Khris Middleton back for those Milwaukee Bucks, who are second in the East. So getting Middleton back should be a help for them, that's for sure. So, and then Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks, he misses the win over Denver, the game that the Hawks play, winning over Denver. Mind you, I just mentioned about John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. Now you had no Trae Young in that game, but they were able to get the win nonetheless. Trae Young with a shoulder injury that kept him out of the game. So, and then DeJounte Murray, he led the way with 34 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds. So, moving on, Jaylen Brown, I was just talking about him, of Boston, has 37 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists, but he does it in an overtime loss to Miami, 120-116. Also in that game, your MVP candidate, Jayson Tatum, not such a good game for him. 14 points on 5 of 18 shooting and 0 of 7 from 3. And along with 12 rebounds in that game for him. But Miami, they get contributions from a few folks. Bam Adebayo with 28 points and 7 rebounds. Jimmy Butler, I believe that was his return for him because he had sat out for a minute. 25 points, 15 rebounds. And then Tyler Hero with his 26 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 steals. So, so Miami getting it done. in a close one against the Eastern Conference leader, the Boston Celtics. Joel Embiid. Talk about Joel Embiid once again. Joel Embiid puts up 35 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 blocks as Philly takes, as they lose on the road to Memphis, 117 to 109. And in that game, Ja Morant goes for 28 points with 8 rebounds. Jaren Jackson Jr., 22 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks for him. So, the Memphis Grizzlies with their 2 catalysts there getting the win over Philly. And then lastly, Devin Booker scores 41. It seemed like we're still talking about him. 41 points, but in a heartbreaking loss to Houston of all teams, 122 to 121. And for Houston in that game, Jalen Green, 30 points, and he's one of 6 players with double figures. So, all right, guys, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cut it off here, and I'll do a second half of this. I still have Saturday and Sunday to talk about, and then I want to talk about the quarter point of the season. We've reached at least the quarter where teams played at least 21 games. So we'll talk a little a little quarter news there in the NBA. So all right, we'll do that on the other side. So probably in another episode. So all right, guys. So stick and stay, and I will be back soon. Take care. So my peeps, if you like what you're listening to, you can go to my website, www.allthingsbasketballwithgd.com. You can also email me at thatsportsdudegd@gmail.com. To support this podcast, you can go to my PayPal, and that email is thatsportsdudegd@gmail.com. Also on my Anchor page, I have a support button there that you can also use to help the podcast. I'm on all the major platforms like Anchor, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, Amazon, SoundCloud, YouTube, Castbox, Radio Public, Podchaser, just to name a few. And also you can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Clubhouse, and Fanbase. So once again, I thank you for listening and supporting this podcast, and take care and be safe.